Who's going to win the Scottish Premiership? Well, that's a question on everyone's lips for this season. There's 9 games to go. Hearts have been top of the league for so long and find themselves in a fantastic position above Rangers, Celtic, and Motherwell. I do think it's a 14 title race. I haven't quite ruled Motherwell out yet, and we'll go through some metrics in this video and I'll kind of see why that I haven't ruled them out yet. We'll go through some form guides as well. So all four teams are stacking up in terms of this title race. I don't think the defeat last weekend completely rules Motherwell out. I think it'd be a massive ask for them to win the title, but they're well in there. They're going to have a massive say in the title race. So looking at it, no other team outside Rangers or Celtic have won the league since 1985, which is an incredible stat. But Hearts really do find themselves in such a good position. Tony Bloom only expected to attempt to split the old firm at the start of his tenure, but now Hearts find themselves 5 points clear of Celtic, 6 clear of Rangers with 9 games left to go in the season. Are they the favourites? Who do you think is going to win the league? Like I say, we're going to go through some data in this video, look at how all the teams are doing, look at the form guides as well, and then that will hopefully help you form your opinion on who you think is going to win the league title. The first metric we're going to look at here is one that I just found quite interesting. So looking at defensive intensity, so looking at the PPDA, which is the passes per defensive action, it's just how many passes the opposition get before a tackle, an interception, or a defensive duel from the other team. And then challenge intensity looks at how many interceptions, tackles, defensive duels per minute the team have. So you can see Celtic and Rangers up the top. I'm actually quite surprised at Motherwell's position there. You can see, looking at Falkirk as well, how intense they are in terms of the challenges and how many passes the teams get per defensive action. I think it's a massive worry for Dundee fans looking at that. So they're not that intense in trying to get the ball back, and other teams get a lot of passes per possession that they have. So again, considering how well Dundee have done, I think it's incredible to see them up the top left there. I do think they're safe for this season, but like the video title suggests, we're looking at who's going to win the title. So Rangers and Celtic up there with the highest intensity in terms of defence, Hearts in third there, and then Falkirk are actually just ahead of Motherwell, which again I was quite surprised about given their playstyle. The next metric we're going to look at looks at expected goals versus actual goals scored. You can see Celtic well ahead in XG, sitting there at just over 63, 63.1, and that is so far ahead of Rangers in second. Rangers sitting with 50.43 XG, which is really incredible. But I do think when you look at Wilfred Nancy's tenure, Celtic were creating a lot of chances, just weren't converting them. So I do think that actually makes sense. But they have got the 63 XG compared to the 53 goals they've scored, so really underperforming that. Rangers actually just overperforming theirs, 50.43 XG, like I said, with 51 goals scored. Hearts again overperforming their XG with just under 50 at 49.98 XG compared to the 52 goals scored. And Motherwell just slightly underperforming theirs, 48.76 XG compared to the 48 goals scored. You can see they're realistically Celtic create the most chances in the league. They've scored the most goals. Just one more than Hearts and two more than Rangers so far, but I do think if they start being more clinical in front of goal, they can pull away, and I think that's really a massive sign in where the title could go. Because you look at how many goals are being scored, they are conceding more, which we'll look at next. But in terms of actually scoring goals, they are miles ahead of the rest. So, like I said, next we'll move into the conceded goals. Hearts actually have the lowest XG against with 30.75, conceded 24 goals. Celtic next with 33.14, conceding 31 goals, so not preventing a lot more than they should, which is no surprise given Kasper Schmeichel's performances and the fact he's now been dropped for Sinisalo. Motherwell, though, the biggest overperformers, 33.77 XG against and only 20 goals conceded, which is incredible considering the start of the season. They conceded 3 goals to Hearts and they won to Rangers, so 4 goals they conceded in their first couple of games. They've not conceded many for the rest. We'll look at the form table and you can see again how incredible defensively they've been, which for the kind of attacking play they have is really surprising, and how they've managed to kind of shore up that defence from last season, considering they were a bottom six side, to now be in the top four with a chance at a title with the best defensive record in the league. Rangers as well have the highest XG against the top four, 36.01, 25 goals conceded. Not overly surprised by the XG against it. I think Rangers do give up a lot of kind of gilt-edged chances, and teams have missed a lot of sitters against Rangers this season. Jack Butland come up with some big moments that might have given some goals away, but he has made also some massive saves. And I do think Rangers, as the data says, give up the most clear-cut chances in terms of the top four. Then, if you follow me on Twitter, I would have given a little snippet of how this was going to look. So we're looking at expected points against actual points. So sitting at the top there's Celtic with 56.3 expected points, 58 total points, so they're overperforming it, but still sitting second in the league. Hearts with 51.5 expected points, massively overperforming that with 63 actual points. Motherwell just round about the level they should be at with 51.1 expected points with 53 points gained. And then Rangers, so 47.1 expected points and 57 points actually gained. So 10 over what they were expected. And I think given the run kind of before Christmas and some of those really tight games the Rangers have had, it's really not surprising. We spoke earlier about the amount of gilt edge chances that Rangers give away, and I think that massively factors into that and how a lot of teams will find themselves unlucky to not have got more points against Rangers. Hibs, who are actually sitting at 46 expected points with 46 points gain. In that game, Easter Road probably count themselves unlucky. I know Rangers had the disallowed goal from Mikey Moore. I thought Hibs were the better side in that game, probably could have came away with a victory. Some other games towards the start of the season as well, under Russell Martin, where Rangers got draws they probably didn't deserve. So a massive overperformance of 10 points there, which again I think is massively eye-opening for Rangers fans considering how bad they think the season's going now when according to the data it should actually be a lot worse. Now we're going to move into the form table. I've only looked at the last 5 and 10 games, so I don't really think looking beyond that is relevant at this stage, given the form going into the end of the season. So look at the last 5 games. Motherwell will sit top there. 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. The loss obviously coming to Dundee at the weekend there. Hibs and Celtic also sitting in 10 points as well with the exact same record. But the biggest thing I think that stands out for Motherwell is only losing 3 goals in that period. Rangers sitting with 9 points there, 2 wins and 3 draws. I think that's massively concerning form going into the end of the season. Then for Hearts as well, 3 wins and 2 losses there, gaining 9 points. I think you look at that, it's not surprising with how well Motherwell have played, but Hearts have been grinding out some results, so getting those 3 wins could have been a lot worse. You can see 5 goals scored, 5 goals conceded 4 at Ibrox, obviously, so only one in another game, but they're only scored 5 goals as well compared to Rangers scoring 14, Celtic scoring 10, Motherwell scoring 11, even Hibs scoring 10 there. I think it is concerning for Hearts, but the biggest point for them is they're sitting top of the league, they're 5 points clear, they're getting the points on the board. So maybe the fans can ignore the performances that means a title at the end of the season. And then look at the last 10 games as well. Motherwell sitting top, this time 1 point clear of Rangers with 23 points. 7 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss, only conceding 4 goals in the last 10 games. I think's again an excellent record. We know how good they are defensively and how exciting they are to watch. Rangers sitting second with 6 wins and 4 draws, unbeaten in the last 10, scoring 24 and conceding 9 goals, conceding a lot more in recent games, a lot more defensive mistakes. Teams been a bit more clinical, which probably adds into the expected points total as well. Hearts again there, 7 wins, brilliant. The 2 losses there, maybe a bit concerning the 1 draw, and again, not scoring that many and conceding a lot more goals than they were. 14 scored, 7 conceded. Celtic sitting fourth, 6 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses, 20 goals scored, 13 conceded. I think the goals conceded there is probably a bit of a concern for Celtic fans, but they have looked a lot better with Sinisalo and over Schmeichel, and I think Trusty's been really good for them the last couple of games. That's how the form table looks. Looking at that, who do you think's got the best chance going into the end of the season? And now we'll move into the team's fixtures before the splits. I've mentioned them previously, but the form tables were taken from Soccerway, really good website if you want to look at the kind of granular level data in terms of teams' forms. You also look at their home and away form as well. So a really good website, so you check that out. And then all these fixtures come from FotMob. So Hearts have the late game Saturday night as you head to Rugby Park. Celtic have the chance to close the gap down to just 2 points. I think that puts a bit of pressure on Hearts if Celtic can beat Motherwell at Celtic Park. I don't think Hearts are going to struggle against Kelly, who got absolutely hammered last time out against Falkirk. Finished 5-1, but it really could have been anything that Falkirk wanted. They've really struggled since the injury to Tyrese John Jules. I think they were looking decent before that. I think they did a decent display at Ibrox despite losing 5-1. A decent win against St Mirren as well, where John Jules got a hat trick. And then that first half against Celtic, they were excellent going in 2-0 up, and then they eventually lost that game 3-2, and it's just really went downhill since there. So I don't see Hearts struggling in that one. Dundee at Tynecastle. Dundee, again, a good run of form. They had a great win against Motherwell. They beat Celtic this season. Rangers have struggled in games against them as well. So I think that will be a tough one. At Tynecastle, Hearts have been coming away with a few 1-0 wins in recent weeks. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get some goals this Saturday and then carry that into the next week. Then on the 5th of April, after the international break, they travel away to Libya. Again, I don't see that being a struggle. I know Rangers have struggled there. Sometimes the bigger teams struggle on the pitch and going away to Livingston, but given Hearts' form this season, I think that should be an easy win. Then the toughest fixture of all of them, they welcome Motherwell to Fir Park on the 11th of April, the last game before the split. I think that one could have a massive say in where the title goes, even if Hearts don't win any of those 3 fixtures before it. I think they will, though. That one can again catapult them above whoever needs to be there. And it's a really hard game. Motherwell's travelling to Tynecastle, but I do think, depending on where Hearts are, they're probably still in the strongest position in terms of their fixtures going into the split. Then we'll move on to Celtic fixtures. Obviously, the massive game at the weekend is Motherwell travelling to Celtic Park. This one's huge. If Celtic win this one, I think they'll take the form into the rest of the games and should win them relatively comfortably. I don't think they'll struggle in any of them. So Motherwell's a big one. If they win that game, they put pressure on Hearts, who don't play until Saturday night. Like I say, they could close the gap down to 2 points. And I think, again, puts massive pressure on Hearts and would give Celtic a massive boost given how good Motherwell have been. Week after that, travel away to Tannadice. I don't think that one is going to be a struggle. I think Celtic, even though they got beat there earlier on in the season, I think they're going to win that one with relative ease given Dundee United's recent form. After the international break, they travel to Dens Park where they got beat earlier on in the season as well. I think that one depends on Dundee's form going into that game. They've got Hearts before that as well. So if they can get a decent result against Hearts, will take a lot of confidence going into the Celtic game. But again, I think Celtic are going to come away victorious from that. And then against St Mirren, at home, I think that's a comfortable win for Celtic. St Mirren have obviously just lost Stephen Robinson to Aberdeen, so I think they'll come away with a win there. They don't tend to struggle against St Mirren at home. But it all comes down to how the Motherwell game goes. If they get a draw there, if they get beat from Motherwell at home, that could massively dent their confidence going into the rest of the games. But I do think if they beat Motherwell, then they win the rest of the games and probably put themselves in potentially the best position to win the title. I think Rangers would have felt a lot more comfortable coming into these fixtures if Stephen Robinson hadn't went to Aberdeen. To be honest, Rangers always struggle going to Paisley, haven't won there in a while, and I do think it's going to be a struggle. There's potentially going to be a bounce from the players, even though the manager's not been sacked and he's left. They still need to impress to see who the next person taking charge is going to be to try and cement their places down. So it's always a tough one for Rangers going there early on Sunday. So if Rangers can win that one, I think they'll take massive confidence going into the rest of them, but drop points there. I think Rangers could slightly fade away. Again, going against Aberdeen the next Saturday in the evening kick-off, Stephen Robinson now at Aberdeen. Rangers always struggle against Stephen Robinson's sides, so this completely changes the game. Like I said, St Mirren have been struggling, so if they still had Stephen Robinson, I think Rangers would have fancied their chances more. And Aberdeen still under Peter leaving, but the fact that St Mirren have potentially the chance to have a managerial bounce, and then Stephen Robinson has a couple of weeks now to get in Aberdeen and get them organised and playing the way he wants. I think those are two tough fixtures and a lot tougher now that Stephen Robinson's changed teams. Then they host Dundee United at Ibrox after the international break. I think that one should be an easy victory on paper. Dundee United have really struggled for form. I don't think they're looking great towards the end of the season. So I think that should be on paper a comfortable win for Rangers. And then travelling away to the Falkirk Stadium's a difficult fixture. Rangers haven't beaten Falkirk this season. So I think this one is really tough, especially if you consider if Rangers drop points in any of the following games. Falkirk could essentially assure the top six. They'll definitely finish. And there I don't see Dundee United or anyone being able to catch them. So with Falkirk being in sixth place, it's going to be a tough fixture. Like I said, Rangers haven't beat them this season. Russell Martin's last game was a draw at the Falkirk Stadium last time out. So it's a tough fixture, and if Rangers don't have confidence going into that game, I think it's one they could struggle in. Motherwell have an absolutely horrible run of fixtures going into the split. I actually do feel bad for them. They've been great this season. They've done well in these games. They've done well against most sides in the league, to be honest. But they travel away to Celtic Park on Saturday. Really tough game. Celtic will have confidence from the cup victory despite the performance. They won the game, and that still gives you massive confidence going into the rest of the season. So that'll be a tough one. And I think losing in that game puts Motherwell out of the title race. Then the next week they host Hibs at home. Hibs who are just behind them, and again, if Motherwell falter in these games, Hibs could potentially catch up. I don't see it happening with how good Motherwell have been, especially defensively, but falter in these games and Hibs could slip in there. Then the week after, they host Falkirk. Falkirk won at Firth Park earlier on in the season, and again, Motherwell dominated the first half with a wrongly disallowed goal. Then Falkirk came out with excellent in the second half and turned the game around and won 2-1. So another really tough fixture. And then for the last one, they travel to Tynecastle to take on Hearts. It's one of those ones. I think it's going to be a massive struggle for Motherwell, but if they come away unbeaten from these games, if they even get a couple of wins, depending on how the other teams do, they could still be in the title race. All these teams are going to have a massive say, considering every team they play is going to finish in the top six. They're only missing Rangers to kind of play the whole top six in the last fixtures of games. So it's going to be a tough run for Motherwell, but if they can come through with some positive results, they could still be in the title race. Again, it all depends on how the other teams do. So based off of everything you've seen here, the data, the form guide, the remaining fixtures, who's your favourite for the title? Like I say, I'm not counting Motherwell out it, but it's such a tough run of fixtures. They've got towards the end. I do think if Celtic beat Motherwell at Celtic Park on Saturday, they're probably the favourites for me. Having the experience of going through this before, the experience that Mark O'Neill's got, the confidence they'll take from the comeback against Rangers and then putting Rangers out of the cup. I think it's going to be huge. So if they win that game at Celtic Park, it's going to give the players and the fans a massive boost, and it would put them in the driving seat for me going into the split. But who do you think is going to win it? Do you think Hearts still have the best chance? Please leave some comments down below. If you have enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great day.